Hi everybody, my name is Kada. Where I live, we have this nice area and you can pretty much do whatever you want. You can have a little picnic, you can sightsee, go to the museum.
8:03 now. Developing this morning, human remains are found behind an abandoned middle school in Philadelphia's East Germantown neighborhood. It's the same area where investigators have focused their search last week for 23-year-old Kada Scott.
A tragic update in the disappearance of 23-year-old Kada Scott.
She arrived at 10 p.m. exactly. New job, new opportunity, new chapter. She had only been working there for 2 weeks. And her overnight shift at the terrace at Chestnut Hill Senior Living Facility was routine. She clocked in. She checked in with her co-workers. Everything was normal. And then her phone rang. A co-worker watched her step outside to take the call. And what that co-worker saw next was something that would haunt them. Kada Scott, bright, driven, 23 years old, had tears in her eyes. She was visibly shaking. Into the phone, she said the words that would become one of the most chilling details of this entire case. "I can't believe you're calling me about this." She walked toward a dark-colored SUV that was idling in the parking lot. She got in. The car pulled away. And Kada Scott was never seen alive again. That phone call lasted 43 seconds. Investigators would later trace it directly to a man named Keon King. And what they uncovered about who he was, what he had already done, and how the system had handed him every opportunity to do it again. That is what we are about to get into. Welcome to 3 a.m. Files. I'm going to walk you through every single layer of this case. And I need you to stay with me for all of it, because the further we go, the darker it gets. Before we go any further, if a story like Kada's deserves to be told, if her name deserves to echo beyond a headline, please hit that like button right now. Subscribe to 3 a.m. Files and click the bell so you never miss when we cover stories like this one. These are real people, real families. The least we can do is make sure their stories reach as many ears as possible. Now let's get into it. Before we can understand what happened to Kada Scott, we have to understand who she was. 'Cause that matters. It matters more than the court documents. It matters more than the forensics. It matters because this was a real human being with a whole life ahead of her. And the more you understand her, the more this case will stay with you long after you click away. Kada was born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Germantown specifically. She grew up on Rodney Street in a close, tight-knit family. Her father, Keon Scott. Her mother, Kim Matthews. By every account, she was motivated in a way that not everyone is. She enrolled at Penn State University and she graduated with a degree in communications, liberal arts and sciences. She did that. By 2025, she wasn't just sitting still. She had started her own spa business. She was pursuing modeling. She was in the running for Miss Pennsylvania USA. And at the same time, she picked up an overnight care job at a senior living facility. Not because she had to, but because that was the kind of person she was. Someone who kept moving. Someone who kept building. Her family describes her as warm, kind, and full of ambition. Her social media showed a young woman who was comfortable in her own skin. Fashion, art, beauty, life. Nothing about Kada Scott suggests someone who was reckless or careless. She was, by every measure, someone who had figured out what she wanted and was going after it. But in the weeks before she disappeared, something shifted. She started getting phone calls she didn't want. Harassing calls. Disturbing calls. She told her family. She was unsettled. And here's what I want you to hold in your mind. She told people. She reached out. She flagged it. The people who loved her knew something was wrong. What they didn't know was how close the danger actually was. And they didn't know that the man on the other end of those calls had already done this before. On October 2, 2025, 2 days before Kada vanished, she received a text message. It read, "Yo Kada, this my new number." She replied asking who it was. The sender identified himself as Kel. Investigators would later confirm that Kel was Keon King. a 21-year-old man from South Philadelphia, and at the time Dover, Delaware. And the more you learn about Keon King, the more a very specific picture comes into focus. Not just of a dangerous man, but of a system that saw him coming and stepped aside. Let's go back to January 13, 2025. 9 months before Kada died. King climbed over a fence at his ex-girlfriend's home on North 23rd Street. She recorded him on her phone, peering through the window, knocking, trying to get inside as she screamed for someone to call the police. That video would later go viral on TikTok. But what happened that night was worse than the video. He kidnapped her. Off the street, in front of her own house. Threw her in a car. Assaulted her. Strangled her. And then let her go. He was arrested. He was charged with kidnapping and strangulation. His bail was set at $200,000. Now you might think $200,000 that should keep him locked up. But cash bail in this country only requires 10%. Keon King paid $20,000 almost immediately and walked right back out. Then the case fell apart. The victim and a witness failed to appear at not one but 2 court dates. And by May 2025, the DA's office withdrew the charges entirely. King was free. Clean record. No active case. Nothing to stop him. But it didn't stop there. Also on his record, a DUI case out of Delaware County from December 2024. A charge in March 2025 for driving away from police during a traffic stop. A charge in June 2025 for fleeing from police on foot. A charge on October 2nd, literally 2 days before Kada disappeared, for driving without a license. And a third woman, identity never disclosed, had an active protection from abuse order against him running through 2027.
Good evening, Jackie. Police say this video is very important. Now, what the district attorney's office is trying to prove is that there is a pattern of violence in King's behavior.
Seeing and what we continue to see is a clear pattern, of violence of this type of behavior. Ultimately, when the complaining witness and eyewitness on that case stepped out of the property later that day is when the kidnapping occurred, and he grabbed the victim, put her in the car, and drove away and assaulted her.
This wasn't someone who slipped through a crack. This was someone who blew through every warning sign the system had, over and over again. And nobody connected the dots in time. Here's where things get even more complicated. Because someone connected King to Kada. Someone who knew them both. And that someone, known online only as Gabby, went live on social media after Kada's death to explain her role in all of it. According to what spread online, Gabby was a mutual friend of both Kada and Keon King. And she is alleged to have given King Kada's phone number. That's how Kel had Kada's contact. That's how the October 2nd text happened. That's the missing link that investigators themselves said they were still trying to piece together, when they publicly stated they didn't know how King and Scott initially met. Gabby came forward publicly. Not to police but to the internet. She went online and explained herself. She said she had no idea. The public reaction was swift and brutal. But whatever her intent was, the result was that a predator got access to a woman who might never have crossed his path otherwise.
Kada was last seen on October 4th after arriving for an overnight shift at a senior living facility.
Let's go back to that night. October 4th, 2025. Earlier that same day, at 10:07 in the morning, Kada had texted the number she knew as Kel. She wrote, "Kidnap me again." He replied, "Better be up too." They made plans to meet that night. She sent her final text at 10:09 p.m. "CM when you hear. Call me when you're here." Now I want to be careful here because this is where a lot of people have strong opinions and where the defense will build their case. Did Kada's text suggest she had some kind of prior relationship with King? Apparently, yes. Did "kidnap me again" mean she was in danger? Did it mean she knew exactly what she was walking into? Or did it mean something else entirely? A phrase born out of a dynamic she didn't fully understand she was in. We'll come back to that. But keep it in your mind. What we know is this. At 9:45 p.m., Kada left home. She drove her mother's car to work. She arrived at 10 p.m. Her coworker saw her immediately take a call, and that call made her cry. Then she walked to the SUV. At 10:24 p.m., her phone went dark. No signal. No trace. Law enforcement sources have said she was killed approximately 20 minutes after leaving that parking lot. The stolen car, a 2008 black Hyundai Accent that King had taken from a delivery driver the night before, was later tracked by surveillance cameras. At 11:30 p.m., it was parked near the abandoned Ada H. Lewis Middle School. Then, at around 4 a.m. on October 6, surveillance footage captured two figures. Two people. They opened the passenger side of a vehicle and removed what investigators described as a heavy object, consistent with a human body. They carried it into the woods. Two people. Only one has ever been charged. On October 7th, the Hyundai Accent was set on fire in an alleyway. King's phone data placed him at that exact location. By the time police went to retrieve the burned vehicle, it had already been towed to a junkyard and compacted. Destroyed. But the surveillance footage of it survived. For 13 days, Kada Scott was missing. Her family organized searches. They plastered flyers across Philadelphia. Police deployed K-9 units and drones through Aubrey Arboretum. 300 police recruits combed the area around the abandoned school. Nothing. On October 15th, Keon King turned himself in to police. He was charged with kidnapping. Bail, $2.5 million. His gold 1999 Toyota Camry was found at the Gypsy Lane condominiums in East Falls. A public tip led officers there. At the abandoned Ada Lewis Middle School, investigators found Kada's glasses, her phone case, her iPad case, and her bank card. Signs of her. But not her. Then came an anonymous tip. On October 18, 2025, investigators searched a wooded area behind that same abandoned school. And they found a shallow grave. Inside it were the remains of a young woman.
Area where we will locate a shallow grave after being able to remove some of the debris back there, able to locate the body of a human being.
DNA was matched to Kada's parents. It was her.
We begin with breaking news in Philadelphia, where law enforcement sources tell Fox 29 a DNA test confirms the body found Saturday morning in East Germantown belongs to 23-year-old Kada Scott.
She had been there, buried in those woods, while her family searched and prayed and hoped. The Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office confirmed. Kada Scott died from a gunshot wound to the head. Homicide. Keon King was charged with murder, robbery, arson, abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, obstruction of justice, firearms violations, criminal conspiracy, and more. He was held without bail. And on February 2, 2026, he appeared in a courtroom for his preliminary hearing. He had cut off his dreadlocks. He wore a cardigan. He sat with his handcuffs removed. Photos of the shallow grave where Kada was found were shown in that courtroom. Some of her family members had to leave the room. The judge ordered him held for trial on all charges. Today, February 23, 2026, Keon King was formally arraigned. His attorney entered a plea of not guilty. And now we have to talk about what this case exposed, because it goes beyond one man and one crime. Philadelphia's own District Attorney Larry Krasner stood before City Council and admitted that when King was arrested for the January 2025 kidnapping, his office did not move to raise his bail. He admitted they did not refile charges using the video evidence alone. He admitted plainly that his office could have done better. King appeared in court twice for a different case while being wanted on the kidnapping warrant, and police weren't notified, so no one showed up to arrest him. A protection from abuse order from a third woman. A prior kidnapping victim who was too afraid to testify. A man who paid his way out of jail and went on to kill. This was not one failure. This was a chain of them. Philadelphia City Council held a full day-long hearing on domestic violence policy in December 2025, directly because of what happened to Kada. Her name changed the conversation in that city. And her family, on what would have been her 24th birthday, launched a foundation in her name. But the second person on that surveillance video, the one who helped carry her body into the woods, has never been identified. has never been charged, is still out there. Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel told residents, "We continue to pursue anyone who helped, who concealed, who participated in this act. That person is still unaccounted for. And so here is what I need to leave you with. Here is what I need you to sit with tonight." Kada Scott did everything she was supposed to do. She worked hard. She built a life. She told her family something felt wrong. She flagged the harassment. She showed up to her job. And in the time it takes to drive 20 minutes down a Philadelphia road, her life was taken by a man who had already shown every warning sign, and who the system had set free. What does it say about how we protect people, especially young black women, when the signs are this clear and the outcome is still this devastating? How many times does a man have to hurt someone before we treat him like the threat he is? And what about the person who gave him her number? What about the accomplice in the woods? What about the second set of footprints that walked away from that shallow grave and have never faced a single charge? Kada deserved better. Her family deserved better. And whoever is still walking free with the weight of that night on their hands, this case is not over. I want to know what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe the system failed Kada at every level? Do you think there are more people who should be facing charges? And what do you make of that "kidnap me again" text? Does it change how you see this case, or does it not matter at all in the face of what happened to her? If this story moved you, if Kada's name deserves to be heard by more people, please subscribe to 3am Files and share this video. Every share is another voice saying her name. We'll be back.